You're listening to an AI audio recording generated to make our content easier to consume, whenever and wherever works best for you. Now, let's dive in to discuss TechCXO's blog article, The Challenges of Human Capital Management, a Crossroads and a Frontier for Growth. For scaling organizations, labor is not just a cost, it's a bet that the right people working in the right roles can fuel sustainable growth. But human capital is also where things fall apart fastest. Scaling companies routinely over-index on compliance and underinvest in strategic human capital management, creating organizational drag right when momentum matters most. The resulting outcomes are misaligned hiring, bloated payrolls, leadership gaps, and scattered priorities that stall progress. To move beyond this reactive posture, businesses must elevate human capital management to a strategic discipline, one that requires deep alignment between finance and HR, proactive decision making, and rigorous assessments of talent fit. Without this shift, scaling efforts remain fragile, overly dependent on luck, and chronically inefficient. The core challenge of human capital management: structural underinvestment. Most human capital problems don't stem from bad intent, they arise from bad structure. In early and mid stage companies, it's common for HR and finance to be collapsed into one role, often managed by a controller whose background is financial, not people centric. This leads to labor being treated purely as a cost center, rather than as the organization's greatest asset and opportunity. This structural oversight has compounding effects. Leaders lose visibility into workforce dynamics, talent development falls off the radar, and costly people problems such as poor team cohesion, unclear role definitions, or compensation misalignment go unaddressed until they trigger turnover or performance breakdowns. In these environments, HR becomes reactive and transactional rather than strategic and developmental. Finance focuses on cost control rather than value creation, and hiring becomes a game of guesswork, driven more by urgency than alignment. The strategic shift, aligning finance and HR. As organizations grapple with the challenges of human capital management, the most resilient of the pack don't treat finance and HR as parallel functions. They treat them as partners. This alignment enables companies to make better hiring decisions, weighing financial implications alongside organizational priorities and cultural fit, manage compensation proactively, flagging pay compression, equity issues, or inflation mismatches before they destabilize morale, drive accountability, with both departments reinforcing a shared performance standard across functions. Avoid scattered priorities, keeping leadership grounded in long-term objectives instead of chasing tactical distractions. Smart HR finance partnerships transform people operations from a cost center into a growth lever. These partnerships don't just keep the lights on, they light the path forward. A new model for human capital decisions. To properly and strategically address the challenges of human capital management, companies must adopt frameworks that bring clarity to subjective decisions. One powerful approach is the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS, method of assessing whether team members are the right people in the right seats. This framework evaluates people against two dimensions. Right people. Do they align with the organization's core values and culture? Right seats. Do they get it, want it, and have the capacity to do the job? These evaluations shouldn't be reserved for annual reviews or emergency interventions. They work best when embedded into quarterly strategy sessions, giving leadership a rhythm for talent alignment that parallels their financial reviews. Done well, this process helps organizations course correct early before performance dips, morale falters, or teams fracture. From culture to capability, the role of leadership fit. Hiring is only part of the equation. Ensuring that the right individuals are in leadership roles is just as critical and often more complex. Many scaling companies suffer from false positives in leadership, where they promote technical experts or loyal but non tenured employees into leadership and management roles they're not prepared for. A consistent red flag? Leaders who avoid giving direct, honest feedback. This signals a lack of managerial maturity that will inevitably weaken team performance. Organizations must be willing to identify these misalignments early and either develop the leader or make a tough call. Investing in experienced advisors or fractional leaders can provide the perspective needed to assess leadership objectively and recalibrate team dynamics before issues become irreversible. Creative, strategic approaches to people management. Tackling the challenges of human capital management also requires creativity, especially in volatile markets. During downturns, companies often default to layoffs to manage labor costs. But smarter options exist, such as restructuring compensation to include equity, implementing reduced work weeks, or strategically pausing hiring in non critical areas. Companies that invest in thoughtful people strategy, even when resources are tight, preserve institutional knowledge and maintain a resilient culture. The new baseline for human capital excellence. Human capital management is no longer an HR responsibility. It's a company wide imperative. As labor continues to represent the largest line item on the balance sheet and the most important variable in business performance, it demands the same strategic rigor as finance, services, and products and sales. For organizations looking to scale with integrity and speed, the path forward begins with alignment. Align HR and finance. Align roles with talent. Align culture with execution. When these forces work in concert, companies unlock a level of clarity and resilience that can carry them through even the most uncertain terrain.